President of the Texas Trial Lawyers Association, testifying against HB4504 and HJR148. It struck me as I was sitting through the beginning of this hearing an irony in this whole process. That is, if HJR148 passed out of this committee and out of the House and onwards, it would go to the voters. And the voters would be asked to vote to take away their right to vote. This legislation is seeking to remove from the Texas Constitution the words election and elected and replace them with appointment and appointed on a problem that has been defined this morning as the exception and not the rule. Chief Justice Heck testified this morning that the vast majority of our judges are qualified. They know the law. They do the right thing. But it's a small number that aren't getting it right. And I say that we address the exception and not the rule. If there is a judge or a court that is being affected by politics or money that is found to be corrupt, I say shine the light on that judge or that court and let the election process take care of that exception and let the rules stand. For nearly 150 years, Texans have had the power and privilege of electing their judges. This legislation removes this power from the people, the local community, and places it in Austin with a small group. The system is currently constructed, as was carefully crafted in our Constitution, was and is to promote a judiciary that reflects the communities the judges serve. I believe this is not only important to the litigants who might appear before the judges only once, but also the lawyers who I speak on behalf of today, who appear before them every day. We elect judges because the people living in a particular community should have a say on who will make rulings on things that will affect their daily lives. We want and need judges who know the law, who know the community, and who will treat the lawyers, the litigants, and the jurors with the respect a fellow community member deserves. On top of that, and more importantly, there's no evidence that our judicial election system is not working well, or that our elected judges are not competent or qualified or fair, or that appointed judges would be more so. In fact, I recently testified in front of this hearing that our Texas judges are the most competent, qualified, wise, and fair judges on the face of the planet. And I believe that to be true today still. Recent polling in North Texas suggests that our citizens prefer electing judges. Dallas, Collin, Grayson, Hunt, Kaufman, Rockwall counties, 85% prefer electing their judges. 4% prefer gubernatorial appointments. There is no better decider of qualifications than the ballot box. Each of the 150 members of the Texas House of Representatives was elected because the voters believed in you and that you would serve the best interests of their communities in which you live. The same is true of our judges. This is why we oppose the bill in the HJR.
Thank you. Good timing as well, Mr. Adams. Members' questions, yes, Representative Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Adams, thank you for your testimony. In the legislation, I think one of the things that we haven't really talked about is also the increase in the fee. Have you seen that provision of the bill?
You said the increase in
the filing fee?
This is not something that I've focused on, but I would be happy to.
Okay. Yes, if you don't mind, and then we can talk about it later. But really, there's an increase in the filing fee to $3,750 for certain of for a Chief Justice. It's on page 13 of the bill, lines 7 through 8. And so initially, the Chief Justice, Justice of the Supreme Court, and the presiding judge or judge of the Court of Criminal Appeals were paying, or the filing fee was $1,875. So the filing fee increased. So I just wanted to ask about that. If you had any thoughts on that?
Well, it would certainly exclude folks who didn't have that kind of money to file. But again, I haven't studied this section, Representative, but would be happy to focus on this for you.
Okay, thank you. And that was my only question for him. I did want for Ms. Gloria Deal with the Mexican American Bar Association of Texas to ask her if she also wanted to register opposition to the HJR, because I know you raised concerns about it, so I just wanted.
Well, hold on just a sec. Let me stay here. We'll get to that in just a sec. Representative Alve. Representative Johnson.
I just wanted to thank you for highlighting a certain concept that we hadn't really discussed. You know, one of the founding parts of our country was that back in the old times, the Crown was appointing the judicial arbitrators of the people's decisions. And back in the time when our country was founded, that was one of the core fundamental principles and one of the bases for the founding of our government was that so that the people could feel that they would have a fair and impartial arbiter of the disputes. And I think to your point and to Judge Moyet's point, by this appointment structure, we're consolidating too much power in one judicial branch and really abdicating one of the fundamental foundations of our government and of our people, which is a fair and impartial judiciary in the hands of a small few of appointment and accountability to those small few. And I just want to thank you both because I think that's very, very important as we continue this discussion. And so thank you for highlighting that.
Thank you, members. Any other questions? Ms. Leal, per Representative Niave's question, if you're willing to register, if you want to register against the HJR as well, if you'll just go back to the kiosk and register and just put that you don't want to testify on it.
I'll be happy to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for clarifying for the record. Members, any other questions?
Could I ask?
Yes, Representative
Will,
Smith.
Will, so just to make sure I'm clear on your position, your position is that you're not in favor of any judicial selection reform?
We believe in the voters' representative. So as far as appointment goes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. So we'll just leave it where it is, like it is right now.
I concur with Judge Moyet, who's sitting two down from me, that he's an example of the system working. I've appeared before Republican judges, Democrat judges, who the rule is they follow the law and get it right. There are exceptions. A lot of the times when there is a disagreement between lawyer and judge to where the lawyer isn't in favor of that judge is a matter of personality rather than politics or principle. I believe the vast majority of times the judges get it right, whether I like it or not.
Well, and for purposes of our discussion today, I think I would agree with you. I don't know that judicial malfeasance was such the issue as it was the political sweeps that occur and remove those good judges, those experienced judges, prematurely and maybe without basis from the bench. Wouldn't you agree that that's the primary issue here and not judicial malfeasance?
I think it would depend on who you ask. I've heard both. Either way, it's one of those things, if it's working, we should let it continue to work. I agree with the concept that you will never, ever remove politics from this process. In the way it's proposed in the bill, there will be politics involved. With the voters, you hope not so much, sure there is, but if there's politics involved in both, I'm going to defer to the voters personally.
So you heard, did you hear the comments of Representative Nayave a moment ago about being concerned about the new minority judges that we've secured across the state? Did you hear her comments?
I did.
And then I think Representative Meyer came back and asked a question about that, and I'll ask you a similar question to Representative Meyer. Isn't it true that, and timing is everything on this legislation, just like any legislation, but if we chose now to try and pass some type of a bill, maybe similar to this with some tweaks, or maybe like Arizona has or whatever, that we could now protect and somewhat preserve the election gains that those minorities have made in this last election.
So my thoughts on that, Representative, are that we would be protecting a class of judges, but not protecting going forward. You would say, we're going to grandfather you in, those who are on the bench now, but that doesn't change the fact that going forward, you would remove the right from the voter to put judges on the bench from there forward. I think that fixes the problem for them, but it doesn't fix the problem going forward.
Members' questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you to the panel.